So welcome to everyone. We are going to start with today's program. Once more, for those who still are not familiar about Junction and myself, I am Jeanne Shortino. I am the founder and director of Junction, and Junction is the place, and you see here a public venue focusing on Southeast Asia. So we have all kinds of events, including the exhibition of Myanmar that is currently ongoing for the last 2 days. And we have been partnering with the Burma Spring Benefit Festival, Film Festival, which is ongoing on the platform. You can see all kinds of movies related to Myanmar, and they collect donations to support the democratic movement in Myanmar, and we are collaborating with them. We have chosen to focus on LGBT rights in Myanmar, following the arrest of 3 transgender people in Myanmar very recently. So we had the movie last week, and this is the second movie on the same topic. The program consists, first we will talk with Jeanne Hallacy on Zoom, or on Facebook actually. She will explain a little bit about the festival and introduce the film. Then we will look at the movie, and finally we will have a commentator who will link the situation on gay marriage or same-sex marriage here in Thailand, what is happening with the law that didn't pass, but we will hear more later on after the movie. So, Jeanne? Sorry, hold on. Okay, there she is. Hi.
Hello. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much once again to Junction for hosting the second event of the Burma Spring Benefit Film Festival. And we also want to acknowledge and thank our colleague from the Manushya Foundation, who will lead you in an excellent discussion that I'll join by observing on Facebook after the film. The Burma Spring Benefit Film Festival was formed last year in quick response to the military coup that unfolded in Myanmar. And we launched the first edition in June of last year. And we thought initially we were just going to have a handful of films, but we had so many submissions from around the world that we ended up with this remarkable collection of films. So films from and about Myanmar have been collated into one collection. We have over 49 films, including documentaries, feature films, animation, short films, and we are very proud that we're also featuring films produced by Burmese filmmakers. We have some new additions that we've added to the second round of the festival, and we urge all of you to watch as much as you can in the next 24 hours, because the festival will be ending at 12 noon our time in Bangkok on Monday, which is midnight in the U.S. The team is comprised of Gaetano Maeda, who himself is a curator, a well-known curator in the San Francisco Bay Area of the Buddhist Film Festival, the well-known filmmaker Ellen Bruno, Kenneth Wong, who's a Burmese poet and literary translator, the producer Greg Butensky, who's the producer of our documentaries at Kirana, and a Buddhist leader and humanitarian, Alan Sunake. And everyone on the team has volunteered their time to put the festival together. And importantly, every filmmaker who's given us these films have waived their fee that they would normally charge to screen a film as a donation towards the festival. So in the first round of the festival, we were very successful at raising over $52,000 US, and all of that money went directly to community-based organizations or Burmese NGOs, local grassroots NGOs, for direct humanitarian assistance for emergency needs. As you're all aware, the situation in Myanmar is extremely critical. At this point, you can say that it's a full-blown humanitarian crisis. This is an unprecedented amount of refugees who have been displaced. We're looking at upwards of over 250,000 of internally displaced persons, and that's on the conservative estimate. It's higher than 500,000 in some areas. About 70% 90% of the country is now in a state of war. It has devolved in the level of violence with the formation of the People's Defense Force, which declared themselves to be a protective force against the military's brutality, has now created this chaos and fear that is sweeping the country. There are thousands of political prisoners languishing in prison, many of whom have reported detention while in torture and interrogation. And there's been a mass exodus of elected parliamentarians and intellectuals, including members from the medical profession, who spearheaded this protest movement and the so-called CDM, the Civil Disobedience Movement. So we really urge you to please spread the word in these last 2 days of the festival. Donate whatever you can. No amount is too small. And even if you can't donate, just by sharing it on your Facebook or your Twitter or in any way to disseminate the information, we really feel that through films and storytelling, this is a portal into the hearts of a country that is a very rich culture. It's a very diverse place with over 130 different ethnic nationalities. And it's a place that has been the vanguard of many political movements and human rights movements, such as the movement for LGBTIQ rights. This film is one of my personal favorites from the festival. Leah will speak more about it. But it's both beautiful, not just in its technical style, the cinematography, but in its storytelling, because it really meshes the kind of magical culture that Myanmar offers, with you'll see in the film with the Nat worship and how that is part of the LGBT community. But it meshes that along with the resilience of the people to create change and the courage of people to step out and ask for that change at any cost. So we're really grateful to see Junction and to Leah and her team who are involved and all the volunteers. And See Junction is also a vital portal for Bangkok. This is a unique venue that provides a space for this kind of discourse, films, readings, and discussions that you won't find elsewhere in Bangkok. So please also support See Junction. And thank you all so much for coming to today's event. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the screening. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Jeanne, for being with us, even if not in person. And thank you to Nada for arriving and being willing to discuss the movie. No, it's fine. We are very glad you are with us. Maybe you can sit first there, and then I will introduce her more properly in the second part. But for now, we are going to watch the movie, which, as Jeanne said, is quite special in the sense that it's about a same-sex marriage among LGBT people in a rural village, and you will see it's symbolic in a sense because it's not a formally recognized marriage, but at the same time a community is willing to go along and celebrate the marriage. So let's watch. Take the light out. Luckily, we were able to watch the movie. I can relax now. So we are lucky now to welcome Nada, please, from the Manushya Foundation, and she is the officer for human rights, if I am not mistaken. That's okay. That's okay. Oh, human rights campaign advisor is the official title. So I think she will reflect on the movie and also link it up with the situation of the current law on marriage in Thailand.
Um, Good evening, everyone. Let me give you a short introduction about myself. My name is Nanda. As you know, I'm a campaign advisor with Manushya Foundations. I also do a lot of work related to social GSD rights in Thailand, and including urban rights and sex workers. Um, so vocal a lot about marriage equality and the gender identity at in Thailand as well. Well, it was very impressive to watch these documentaries, and it reflects and they talk about law, and then it gave me some idea that in Myanmar having same-sex relationships still under the penal code. I understood. It means that they have to hide their identity, and um, so this documentary reflects how community protect each others and support each others, and how they value the love is love goes beyond between men and women and no boundaries, which is it's really touching. In the other hand, I like to reflect on behalf of these scenarios. It's not just happening. I believe it's everywhere. I traveled to Myanmar twice, and I heard a lot about the stories. And I've seen. I went to Yangon, so that's why I can see some of the a lot of gay couples, like they hold each other hands in public areas, in public sphere, which is it shows some progressive. I have also my best friends Lamia, who work on as like community leaders to promote rainbow rights in Myanmar, also push harder the agenda before the coup d'etat, before the coup d'etat. And it's not when it comes to community rituals, it's so beautiful and rich in culture and reflects. When I was young, also have seen some scenarios, and if you look at the news in Thailand, also from time to time throughout the year, especially the various seasons, we have around like in March and also around the end of the year, mostly like people gather and a couple get married or having like marriage ceremony, and a lot of like a couple or even like between trans and transgender persons and their partner also celebrate the same thing. But in the news, you may see the headlines address about like surprisingly something not really positive, compared to the heterosexual couples who might be able to be on the news. In my views, I believe that communities across the nation, we are more than ready for the marriage equality. So, but as you know, like when I reviewed some documents and papers before I came here, uh, we cannot go further because of the one principles in every like official documents. They said by their charter, they said by their Asian value. How come the beautifulness of Asian value can prevail international human rights standards? So no matter what they said, they will follow UDHR. They will follow the core elements of international human rights standard, but it will never be able to involve or be inclusive when it comes to social essays. What does it mean? It means that no matter how hard we try to voice out, it's not going to happen. We are not fighting for democracy or human rights and every element of rights for our community because we are special, because we are like extraordinary people. We fight for the same thing, the same common ground that everyone wants to have. That's how we are not talking about what technical terms of law that we have to use. We are not talking about the lawmaker didn't know anything about laws about marriage equality. No, 30 countries already in the world recognize marriage equality for all. Recently, as you know, in Switzerland, as well as the gender identity laws in Switzerland as well. Yes, last year Switzerland made such huge, the massive headline for me in terms of how they can ensure, the government ensure that people have their own freedom to choose, which is international human rights that says the right to self-determination. You can determine to be who you are and to live your life together to form family with someone you want and love. But here, no matter how hard we try, it's not like impossible. I used to believe that Thailand is ready, but how come 8 years since Thailand kicked off the civil partnership law, the draft, since Yingluck Shinawatra, she was the prime minister. I know in that time we look at what the lesson learned from some other countries like in France, in Germany, in even the UK. We realize that everything started from civil partnership first before, it's mobilized people in these countries to understand that our LGBTIQ are able to form delicate love, and to form families as well as others. There might be some technical issue related to adoptions and parental custody. Sometimes you have being single father, single mother for a long while, and you met someone. Eventually, they are the same sex, so they're married. So in terms of parental custody, from time to time, the laws, the principle have been developed to ensure that the best interest of the child also involved, as well as to make sure that the parents have the rights, to take care of the children when it's come to LGBTIQ and families members. Somehow, I thought it was a good example, but I was so wrong because it's not even why we have to follow those structures when we know exactly now that we are able, we are not different. Until I realized that last year, not 2 years ago, a lesbian couple who braved enough to file complaints with the Thai Constitutional Court. And as you may know, throughout the news all around, Thailand headlines, international headlines address this clearly that the general comments and the consideration officially address that marriage equality is not possible, is impossible here because they believe that marriage is certified for straight couples. And because the because what is the lesbian couple who find complaint. So you might see in the details within the constitutional verdict address that is it your job? Is it your job you born as women? It means you have ovaries, it means you have menstruation. Your job is to carry pregnancy. You are not allowed to enjoy the same social welfare or any governmental welfare regarding to like as well as hetero couples, and even compare LGBTI individuals as like and the animal creatures. If any scientists can prove that same-sex animals could produce some kind of like delicate bond within their own family. Consider that LGBTIQ individuals can form delicate family. This is make me sick. I mean, literally, I'm sick after I have to read this wording, and it's give me. It's actually like ruin my belief that Thailand is ready. Thailand is a global hub for like, and people keep saying that this is the paradise, and I would like to address that. Why we've been called as paradise for a long time? Because we have Silom Soi 4, right? We have lots of bar gates. We have lots of massage parlors. We have like one of the best outstanding cabaret show performed by transgender performers. We have always been addressed in the Lonely Planet, right? The travel guidebook said that Thailand is the biggest hub when it comes to gender affirming surgeries. All of these reflect and build like a long-term propaganda for Thailand to be well known as LGBTIQ paradise. But when it was even like gone further when the tourist authority of Thailand promote Go Thai Be Free. If you watch these the advertisement, if you can just for you can watch Go Thai Be Free. You can search Go Thai Be Free on Google. It's just 2 minutes documentary, and you give me. I don't have to tell you exactly why I'm sitting here today. Let's watch together and let's see. Let's predict the future about marriage equality in Thailand. Maybe they know.
Yeah. That's answer.
Maybe go on YouTube. Okay. Well, as you can see, that's why I call it as official propaganda. Especially when you compare with the official wording from the Thailand Constitutional Court. The state that can compare us with like animals. We cannot bow, we cannot fond love, we cannot be fond, we cannot be having any delicate, we cannot even raise a child. And we live with this. And I have no doubt why they promote this, because LGBTIQ tourism produce and huge numbers when it comes to GDP contribution. And we have been used our love, our cultural, our identity so much to feed the money into government vault. And when we calling for so long for just basic human rights, we get nothing. As you see from the actually just like a couple of days ago when Gai Party Day, it's for the first time that the draft bill on to reform the civil and commercial code to allow everyone enjoy their marriage, and also families, anything related to family relations and succession. Is what suddenly like hijacked by a cabinet. It's the cabinet of Thailand. They asked that we would like to study. I'm like, what? It's been years. You have gone through. You have peoples. You have government officers who've been studying these drafts for so long. So it's kind of like a technical, like political game to just want to withdraw this draft at the end of the day. So I have no hope with this government, to be honest with all of you. And Thailand is more than ready. Last year during the UPR, is like the UN protocol called Universal Human Rights Political Review. So every state member of the UN has gone through this review. And for the first time, you received 12 recommendations from state members. And 4 recommendations has been given targeting marriage equality in Thailand. For example, Netherlands, the government of Netherlands, Luxembourg, Iceland, and France. But government Thailand, the Thai government also hold the decisions for them to accept these recommendations or not. And they have to give the official answer by 23rd of March in Geneva during the Human Rights Council's official sessions. So we have to push pressure. We have to call for international pressure in terms of that we could be able to hold our government into account. So every time Thailand has to go through having like officials or meeting or sessions with UN, they will move a little bit and then they pull it back. So I don't want to end my conversation with like in a hopeless manner. But I still hope that they will follow what they promote. They will follow every single step that they said. And then it's time for them to reclaim this statement. In Thailand, we believe diversity is amazing. Thank you so much.
This open, albeit a little bit saddening realization that hope seems not to be, and indeed I think many are quite disappointed about the continued dismissal of this discussion. Yes, I will open for a final round of questions. So maybe 2 or 3. One, is any other who wants to ask or comment on the
Thank you. Yeah, so first, I'd like to thank the Junction for another very moving documentary about LGBT in Myanmar. And of course, tonight I saw very important insights into the whole LGBT situation in Thailand. It seems very obvious to me that it is really for the purpose of attracting dollars into the entertainment industry here using the LGBT community. I have one question though. From watching the movie, the Myanmar movie, the monks in the movie very strongly supported the gay man in that village. So, just to make it in a broader context in Thailand, what do you think could be the real reason for the government in being reluctant to change the constitution to allow marriage? Is there any religious reasons? Like, what is the Buddhism Association here saying?
Well, just to
I think we will take 2 and 3 maximum questions.
Okay.
You can answer.
All right. So thank you very much indeed for the movie and also for the enlightenment. A little bit intro about the Thai, etc., etc. Here I just wanted to add a little bit, like whatever happens in Thailand is also not just then, it's also happened to any other part of the world. I come from Indonesia, where the Muslim, values is very strong, etc., etc. Some other part of the world. I've been living in Italy for about 5 years, and also in New Zealand. And even though they say hey, I am a well-developed or what you have considered as modern one, it's also the same. Back then we remember Papa Giovanni Paolo II, he always said who am I to judge, but then what happened? That one is the last one. It's not the Giovanni Paolo II. What's the Pope Francis? Pope Francis once says who am I to judge? But by the end of the day, he also retraced that opinions back. So from that kind of things, I conclude that basically the notions about LGBTIQ is only theoretical. If you look at our, I am a lecturer, a literature teaching literature at school. So back then, it only happens in the novels, in the literature. If you take a look at Utsana Platon's novel, when the same-sex relationship is there, it's more acceptable rather than those happenings here. But then this kind of discussion is somehow like the discussion about feminism, in my opinion. We always debate on, hey, what can we do? Or, we always tend to look at the bigger scope. What can others do? What do the governments do? What do this one do? What do this one do? But then we also forget that everything is started from the small scope. As a part of a queer and an LGBTIQ itself, I feel like I sometimes do not have the space because other friends that's supposed to be my supporter, taking the seat back. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not, as what you say, we are the LGBTIQ. As a part of the LGBTIQ community has already given a small space in the society because they tend to be, pro-hetero instead of, and somehow that space, that little space is getting even smaller because those who supposed to support us, those that, the terms that we're supposed to stand for each other, they even take it back. So I think it is not the times of like, this is what the government should do, this is what this one, like maybe let's just start from our side, like let's just give, the space, stand for each other, etc., etc., started from the small school. So I think that is what I can conclude for this kind of things. Instead of seeing the bigger picture first, maybe let's just start from the small circle, giving the understanding and awareness among us. Then slowly and slowly coming up and up and up, and then we move to the bigger circle.
Well, okay. So, any more comments? No? Then I think we can conclude to vote.
Yeah, I've been working in this field for 15 years. I've done so many different techniques, tactics, starting from like being outreach, reach out to communities one by one, raise awareness. Exactly like what the teacher did with their community, focus group discussions. But when it's come to the legal advocacy, it's impossible for just sitting at a community. When we have been mobilized long enough and we gathered credible data and information, it's time to put on the paper and bring it on the table. This is the time, like MP representative who are outstanding LGBTIQ. So I don't think it's time to start from a small and one by one.
Yeah, I think at the moment is that we are giving less and less and less.
In Thailand, I don't think I agree.
I
I agree at some point, but I would say we are quite active citizens in terms of like, for example, like political demonstrations. As you can see, has been led by an LGBTIQ, especially like the younger generations. They are on stage. They are the one that receive summons and criminal charge. Even like myself, when I joined a political party and to stand tall, because I believe that is the only one way to present. I can write my own law, and then the next week I got summoned. I am also under the criminal charge as well when I talk about marriage equality, to be honest. So yes, we need to keep working, with communities. Some community they don't care. Some community they have privilege enough to survive. We have billionaires transgender. We have like millionaires, gays, like who own businesses, who have limitless numbers in their bank account, who can't even voice out, but they keep silence.
I think we can discuss
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
after we have coffee and tea outside.
But just to let you know, I've been working in this field long enough to know that we have tried every way. But in order to respond to your question, thank you so much. The official Buddhist Order of Thailand, I don't think they allowed, they allow like the monks, individual monks, to take action exactly as you have seen in the movies. Like in our cultures, it is always, like if you are Buddhist and even you gay, you trans, and you married, you have ceremonies, they will come and and dress use and conduct the ritual as normal. But when it comes to official supporting, I would say they say no. During the movement regarding civil partnership bill in Thailand, the Christian community they first taking counterback. You know, they calling for like official supporting letters. You know, they had a hub. I couldn't say the name, but they have a hub and calling for like the Christianities to send to sign official document to disagree with the draft law. And I even call it myself, acting like I am, you know, I promote and then by their side and they keep all the detail. And I was shocked. And when they know that okay, after the election, they know that we are now kick off our movement again. They've been called for official meeting between an official state officer from Muslims, from Islamic authority of Thailand. I saw the photos by my own eyes and then the gathering and they planned to how they can encounter, you know, with our movement because they said that they cannot accept. And at some point, we've been success with some of the key leaders with Muslim with Islamic authority of Thailand. They said that if you make decision to go with civil partnership bill instead of marriage equality, they will step back because when it comes to partnership, everyone can form it. But when it comes to marriage, no, it's a holy ritual and it should be preserved for like a hetero couple. So I would say this is the real enemies. You know, this is the real enemies. As you can see from the latest parliamentarian parties who have Islamic MB members, they technically use accent to pay respect within our LGBTIQ community and also within their own faith.
So thank you very much. I think we had a very interesting discussion and we can continue outside with coffee and tea. I want to stress also one aspect of the movie, which was that this could be done because it was a democratic village in which people were activists from NLP. So it links the whole discussion of LGBT rights to democracy. And this is very important in the movement, I believe, in Myanmar and also in Thailand, where LGBT rights and women's rights have been an integral part of the democracy movement. So you cannot have democracy unless you recognize inclusiveness and equity among all gender. And this is a discourse that is particularly strong, I see now in these two countries, and I think others of East Asian countries can learn from this approach. So it's not like democracy and then you have the feminist movement separate and the LGBT movement separate, but clearly needs to be an integral part of democracy, otherwise there cannot be real democracy. And we have seen here in the manifestation and we have seen in Myanmar, and as I say, I really hope that this will be also a trend in other countries in Southeast Asia. So thank you very much. Please, on the way out, don't forget to give a donation for Junction as it helps us to continue this kind of activity.